Hello. As you can see, this is not a survival garden. This is a suburban garden. We've got our rows of crop. We've got a fenced in to keep critters out. We have a rototiller, a wheelbarrow, all our tools. This is not what I'm going to teach today. Because if you're planting a garden, a traditional garden like this, your enemies, your neighbors, are going to be able to see this and detect it, and they're going to come and steal your food. So this is the last thing you want to create in the end times. When you need to produce food, you do not want to do it this way. What I'm going to teach you in the next 15-20 minutes is how to do it. Okay, some of the things that I want to go over are the items you're going to need to create your survival garden. Keep in mind that when you're surviving in the future, things are going to be scarce. So you need to start collecting these items now. Put them in a big 55-gallon drum or something. But as you are out there surviving, you're going to have to pick up items as you come across them. And as you'll see, you don't need the best and the newest or anything like that. So here's some things. This is real crucial. To come across some old wire like this, pick it up, grab it, store it. This is going to come in handy, and I'll show you a little bit later. Of course, you need a shovel. Small military-grade shovel. This is great because it's lightweight and carry it. That's going to be very important. We're going to need a handsaw. Some more wire. This is a smaller mesh. And let's see. I even have some old baling wire. And this odd thing is out of a chair cushion. This is a little spring that I can bend it, form it. That'll come in handy. Come across some old tin, just grab it and keep that on your way. You're going to need to collect plastic bags. Black trash bags would be the best, the heavy-duty kind that will last a year or more outside in the sun. But if you can't come up with that, any kind of plastic will work. If you can start collecting this now, you need to. This is just your general fertilizer. It's good for vegetables, lawns, anything. It's real inexpensive. It's about $6 for 35 pounds. This will last you an entire season. So if you have 10 of these stored away in a 55-gallon drum, it's going to cost you $50 and it'll last you a decade. You don't have to have fertilizer to make heirloom seeds grow, but you want to enhance your chances. So having it would be a good idea. String, of course, heavy twine, some wire cutters, because you're going to come across wire that you've got to cut and take pieces of like I've done here. You got to have a bucket. This is what you're going to carry everything in, but also by being near a pond, source of water, you can water your garden with this, right? Just empty your supplies. And this is really important. This is worth $1 million. It costs about $3, and it's your little garden rake. It's small, compact, but you've got to till the soil in order to have a healthy garden. Those are the supplies that you need. Next, I'll start teaching you the systems I've developed for creating a survival garden. Okay, I'm out here in the woods. I live in southeast Kansas. We've got good soil, but a lot of trees. Yet I'm able to grow very successful survival gardens all around here. I've been perfecting this for over a decade. I first did it in Montana, and I've moved here to Kansas, and it works just as well here. I'm going to keep this very simple. You can add or take away from any of the techniques that I'm teaching, but by keeping it basic, you'll remember it. You're looking at a survival garden right now, and it's right in front of me. What I've done is I found an area that has rock, and it's surrounded by rock. But I took my shovel and I found that there is a good 12 inches of good soil down there. So once I found that my soil was good, I tilled it up, and my cat has helped me, as you can see. But if you can zoom in on this, you can see that I've already got some tomato plants growing in here. And why would I throw branches on top of this? Well, one is for a trellis, because this is tomatoes, and the tomatoes need a structure to grab a hold of. On a survival garden, you cannot use one of those pretty little plastic or metal trellises that you buy at Walmart. That'll stand out like a sore thumb. But by using branches, I just drug these two over and threw them on top. I still get plenty of light in here. Plus, those vines will crawl up and seek out the light. It's going to last all season. And remember, on a garden, you're taking a single little seed, and out of that, I'm going to produce, out of that Moneymaker heirloom seed, tomato seed, I'm going to produce about somewhere between 8 and 12 pounds of food from a single seed. And so this is how you need to produce your own food in difficult times. But the second reason why I've thrown these branches on here is for disguise. Who would ever think that there's a garden here? I've got 1, 2, 3 tomato plants in this 2 square foot area. The soil's never been used for a garden, so it's full of nutrition. I've got my fertilizer. Throw that on there once in a while. I can come and check on it and water it. As long as I have my bucket and my source of water within a couple hundred feet. Why do I build a garden among rocks? To increase my rainfall. Because the water is going to hit the top of the rock and it's going to shed off of it into this area. That's why they're all tilted slightly towards my garden. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 square feet of rocks surrounding this garden. That means that I've just tripled my rainfall for this garden. That means I don't have to water it. When we get a rain, it'll get more water here than it will over there. That means that this is going to have plenty of water, a lot of moisture. It's going to thrive. So anyway, this is it. This is a small version. You could make it larger. This is what I prefer. Another reason why these branches are crucial is they actually will, if you look around in nature, wherever a tree has fallen or branches, the leaves get caught up on the outside of that structure. So as the leaves come along here, they'll just get caught up on the rocks and these branches, and they won't blow into your little garden. People can walk by, and I get neighbors all the time to take walks with me to try to find my gardens. They almost never spot them. They'll walk right over on top of them. Sometimes they step on my lettuce. It's because over time, as this grows, you will not be able to tell the difference between this and weeds. So this is number 1. Let's go to 2. Okay, this is the second survival garden. It's a larger area than what we had with the tomatoes. I want to point out that I'm in a wooded area, and I have to project in the future, it's early spring, of how much sunlight I'm going to get in this area. So I find my southern sun, and I can figure, well, I've got enough light coming through here through most of the day, so I've got enough sunlight. I've got some rocks around here that will shed some of the water. If there's not enough, I'll bring them in. Another thing is I can bring in, it looks like a trash heap here, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I can throw that board. That's going to project a lot of water down onto my area. All I do is, you got to make sure that you don't have rock down here at about 4 inches or so. You need at least 6 to 8 inches of soil. I've already done that. I've put a stake down the ground and didn't strike rock. This old foam insulation, right? It's trash. But for a survivalist, it's crucial. I can put a single rock on this and get water to shed off. You know, as well as I do, that you need water and sunlight to have a healthy garden, right? So I've got my sunlight. I'm just trying to get water. That old tin, I can put that here. Anyway, I'm going to till this up, pull out some of the rocks, and remove my excess weeds, and then I'll just pull out my heirloom seeds. On this area, I'll end up making it maybe 6 by 3 feet. That's rather large for a survival garden. I'm not going to plant rows, because if someone was out here searching the area and they saw some neat looking lettuce in rows, they would know that somebody's in the area, right? So you want to make it random. This will be a great place for lettuce. The other one that I showed you, number 1, is great for tomatoes. And you could also put radish in here. Now I've thrown a couple of logs down. One is on the north side. I can stack a whole bunch of debris, and that will eliminate anybody being able to actually see in here and see that there's something going on in the ground. But I can't do it on the southern side because I need sunlight to come through here as much as possible. But I eliminate a 50% chance of somebody being able to detect my garden from a distance. Anyway, this is when you're going to need the wire. You're going to take wire like this and just place it over. Put a couple of sticks in here to hold it firm. It'll keep out most of your deer and your rabbits. That is your greatest adversary other than humans. But you're going to lose some of your gardens. I do every year. You're going to lose them. But that's just part of life. That's why you need a lot of these. And as you can see, these are easy to put together, but you have to do a lot of them because they're small. And you got to figure that maybe 1/3 of them you're going to lose. You're going to lose to rabbits and stuff like that. But anyway, this is a garden. You can imagine it. I've got my logs on this side. Another thing you'll notice is the logs will stop the leaves from coming in, blowing on a windy day, because you don't want leaves on your area too much. You might throw a few just to distract an onlooker, but that's it. Just plant your lettuce, your radishes. You could even throw some corn in here and have some success. But always work the rocks and your debris so that you get extra water in this vicinity, and your garden will thrive. Okay, we're at our 3rd survival garden. This one is a greenhouse. Again, I've used my branches to lay around, one for disguise, to camouflage my site. But secondly, I want to reiterate that it's also to catch the leaves, because you do not want leaves blowing over this. You've got to keep in mind, you are not going to be able to come to these survival gardens every day and pull out the weeds and water and all that. There's 2 reasons why. One is it's too big of a job. But 2, you're going to be spotted if you're doing that. Plus, as you walk in, you start creating a small trail. They'll be able to see that from the sky or from the ground. This is the survival garden technique, is basically plant it, come back and harvest it. yes, you're probably going to want to go in there up to a half a dozen times over a 3-month period, maybe 3 times. The more you do come in, the better the garden will go, but there's a risk factor you got to keep in mind. But I've thrown some branches around here. If I wanted to create a trellis, I would just take a couple of branches, my string tied together, I can do that. Again, I've got some fencing here, some mesh on this side, just lay it in there. But I've also got my rocks, right? I've got rocks that were naturally here to shed water off and also keep the wind out. But if you'll zoom in on this, I was able to create a greenhouse and put my radishes, my heirloom radishes, in this greenhouse. I just found an old 2-liter bottle, cut it, as you can see, laid it over top. Nothing else is hardly growing yet, but I've got my radishes, right? Now that they're thriving, I can go in here and separate them, put them around here, maybe even plant some over there, and I can use this another day. That will last, by the way, a 2-liter bottle like this will last about 2 to 3 years in season, in sunlight, and then it'll start breaking down. So keep that in mind. You need a lot of these. Milk jugs, anything like that. But as you can see, I've got probably 20 plants in this small little area. So it's just going to take me about 10 minutes to go in there and delicately spread them apart, replant them. And remember, you can always plant these back where you're surviving at, your camp, and bring them in and plant them. But this, to go show you, this is the greenhouse technique. And it's a way that you can get your plants started early. If you can get them in the ground 2 to 4 weeks before anything else, you'll have food that much sooner. It's that simple. This is number 3. Let's go to the 4th one. You'll like it. Okay. This is the 4th and final survival garden technique that I'm teaching. On this one, you got to have a shovel and a gulch. Remember, I'm trying to find a way that I can, without being here, have access to water for my plants. This is a little gulch that goes down about a foot every 25 feet. I can tell by the run and the gravel showing that on occasion when we get a good rain, we get a lot of water through here. But as I looked, I could see that really the water at its highest flow rate is about 6 feet in diameter on my wash. So what I've done is created a garden to one side of it. I put this flag here to show you you don't want to do this. You don't want to denote. You're just going to have to remember. I typically plant about a dozen of these gardens on this wash, this gulch, and this gulch area is about 100 yards long. And so I spread them out a lot, but they're all basically the same. Sometimes I'll put them on this side, sometimes that side. It just depends on the terrain. Anyway, all you do is go in about halfway on your gulch, and you start digging a trench. You don't want to dig it real deep in the beginning. You want just the excess flow of this water coming down and go into your ditch. Now you're not going to plant your heirloom gardens in the gulch. You're going to plant it on that side, and you're going to create a dam. And what's great about this is this soil is very clay. So I took it out of this gulch, packed it up here. This garden took me 8 minutes to create. 8 minutes. Just dug it out and put it on that side. I tilled the soil here on this side, and because it was a little too much clay contact, I walked over here about 30 feet, and I dug a couple shovelfuls of some nice fertile ground, and I brought it over and created it here. Again, I have some wire to protect from deer and rabbit. I put a log on this side of the dam to stop any leaves. The same here. But as you can see, I've got a mound of good fertile dirt here. I've been fertilizing this, and I've got about 6 heads of lettuce right in here. I'll have to transplant half of these once they get going, but they'll grow right here. Here's another crucial part to this garden. I have put some large and medium-sized rocks just in front of the downflow because I want to create disturbance in that water as it's washing down to slow it up. Because if it's slow, then it will find its way into my ditch. And the further my ditch goes that way, the deeper, so it can hold the water. This ditch probably will hold 5 gallons of water. That means that with this clay soil, this water will stay here for up to 2 weeks, watering my plants on this side. You do not want to have your garden, I've made this mistake many times, on this side because the water's coming down, fills this up, and it might overtake your seeds. So by being on that side, the water will pile up, and if it does flow out, it'll come out this way. Anyway, this is my favorite garden. It's the best way to water your plants long-term and never have to tend to them. It's simple. It takes under 10 minutes. Everything is basically right here. Just find a good gulch and you've got your garden. Okay, now listen. The last thing I want to do is talk about a source of water. It would do no good to plant a bunch of gardens if you don't have a natural source of water. And so you need to be by a lake, a pond, a river, a stream, or some small little gulches that are typically dry, but when it gets rain, you can get access to water. This is probably 120 feet from the last garden I showed you, that gulch garden. It actually winds around here, comes down this rock, that water does, accumulates in this little pile. I've got another one there, another one there, there. I've got little catches built all along this gulch because it's almost all rock, so it's easy to do. Down here, it's about 5 inches deep, 3 by 3, right? There's 15 gallons of good, nutritious water right here. And I've got a dozen of these down here. This will last because it's shaded. This will last a long time. This will last at least a week or 2. So after a rain, I know that I'm going to have water out there. I can bring my bucket and I can walk around and water my garden the following week after the rain. But you got to have water. Otherwise, your gardens aren't going to grow. If you live in the desert, you know there's ways of collecting water with plastic bags and sheets and tarps and stuff like that that will help, but you're going to have a harder time in the desert. Anyway, you got to have sunlight, you got to have water, you got to have heirloom seeds. Your store-bought, garden-bought variety of seeds are sterile. They'll grow that first year, but you cannot save them for the next year's planting. They've been manipulated genetically so that you can't do that. Think about it. Why have they done this over the last 5-10 years to all our food? Because without food, you're screwed. So, it seems like a simple thing, but it's the most important skill you'll ever come across. Survival gardens. Small, almost impossible to detect. As this area, as the summer comes on, it's going to be so lush and green, they'll never spot your lettuce. They'll be in small patches. Even if you get flyovers, they'll never see it. I like this area because I get a bit of evergreen trees. I can always sit under that, stay out of detection. Evergreen trees are great for shade and cooling and all that, but also to stay out of sight. When you approach your survival garden, you want to get out there, know what you do, take exactly what you need in that bucket, get it done, get to the other one. Try to take different routes so that you don't create trails. Anyway, I really hope you take this serious. Start practicing it with your heirloom seeds if you can, and just use your head. You can come up with other ways that I've missed. But definitely you need to have this skill because it will produce food for decades. And while everybody else is standing in line waiting for the government to chip them and dissect them and reprogram them, you'll be out here healthy, having fun. It'd be like a long camp trip, right? So I guess that's it. Thanks.